Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Milwaukee Sports Performance Podcast, where we talk about all things related to athlete performance, rehabilitation, and wellness. My name is Dr. Michael Falk, and I'll be hosting today's episode. I'm joined by sports dietitian Nicole Kearney. Nicole talks about why nutrition is important for athletes, common mistakes she sees with nutrition, and the importance of timing with nutrition, specifically related to pre- and post-workouts, tips for athletes trying to gain weight, and nutrition for injured athletes. I know I really learned a lot today, and I think you're really going to enjoy this episode. Welcome to another episode of the Milwaukee Sports Performance Podcast. Today, I'm joined by Nicole Kearney of Way of Life Nutrition and Fitness. Nicole is a registered dietitian, personal trainer, and is board certified in sports dietetics. Nicole takes a holistic approach to nutrition, believing that both the mind and the body must be involved to make long-lasting change. Nicole also has a very diverse background, working in everything from restaurants to health clubs, hospital settings, and then high school, college, and professional sports team. So thank you for coming on today, Nicole. Welcome to the show. I'm very excited to chat about nutrition with you today.
Yay! Thank you, Michael.
Yeah, so I always like to start with just a little bit of background for people that are listening. Could you just share a little bit more about what led to your interest in nutrition, and then what you're doing now at Way of Life Nutrition?
Sure. Yeah, I think at a really young age, like literally 8th grade, I remember precisely, just having this understanding that how we fuel our body determines how we feel. And being that I was always a dancer, I think that, and even at a young age, beginning that process, I could still tell, like, oh, there's a difference if I do this or if I don't do this, you know? And so I didn't even realize that there was a career in that at that age. You're not thinking about that stuff. And so it wasn't until high school then that I had some really wonderful teachers that led me to the field of dietetics. And then that's pretty much where it all began.
That's great.
Yeah.
So, Lauren and I are I'll share that we're personally working with you now, and we've really enjoyed that. So we were kind of having a conversation of what we wanted to talk about today. We've been wanting to have a nutritionist on for a while and go through different things. As we started talking, I was instantly like, this could be 3 or 4 episodes. So
for sure. It always can.
This will be part 1 of, 3 over the next, however many years. But I thought we'd want to just start by diving into some basics initially today, and then maybe go a little bit deeper into the world of nutrition with athletes. So
yeah, sure.
Just start with some basics. I know from talking with you that you're really not a fan of the diet culture that kind of exists in our country right now. What are some big problems that you see with this, and how it impacts nutrition and just the overall health of people?
Oof, it's such a big question. I think the main thing is how diet culture warps how we see and feel about ourselves. So really how I look at it is as an individual, so many people put their own self-worth into how they look. And really that's so driven by media and, AKA diet culture in general, right? Like you are not enough unless you're doing X, or you look like this, and so that's where I mean, where in the many, many years that I've been in practice, I have seen firsthand how damaging that can be to just an individual's human existence, just their whole self. And so it's really important that we understand that nutrition, yes, can be complicated depending on what it is that we're dealing with an individual. And at the same time, it's actually relatively simple. And it's so much of it has to do with reconnecting with your body and understanding what it needs, not based on what you think you should be doing or what you've been told or what you see, but truly based on what feels right to you. So I'm not sure if I fully answered that, but really it kind of just, I hope I said enough.
Yeah, no, I think that was perfect. And I mean, it's something that, kind of going off of that too. It's like, I think our field there's a lot of misinformation at certain times with like, we kind of joke that it's like Dr. Google comes in with like all these different things, but I can't imagine from what I hear in my office about what people think about nutrition and this fad diet and that, I'm going to cut out XYZ thing. And I'm like, there's just so much misinformation.
There's so much misinformation, and and I think that that's also, what drives me to do what I'm doing today, and also having, my own podcast too, is the fact that people are so misinformed. And I like to kind of debunk all of that, provide some clarity on some levels, but also I'm really a big fan of just people making their own decisions. And if some people really want to go a particular route, that's their choice. I'm certainly not about, don't do this, do that kind of a thing, but I am a really big fan of having overall awareness. Right. But it is the misinformation out there that's so upsetting, because people they're just constantly in the state of confusion. Yeah. That's all it is.
Absolutely. I mean, I like to think I know more than the average human being. Mm-hmm. I mean, having gone to school for as long and having some background in exercise physiology and stuff. And even with that, I struggle to, sort through some of the nutrition stuff that's out there. And the internet can be a scary place.
Well, the thing about nutrition is all of a sudden it has become a business. It's become something to sell versus it's the foundation of our existence. Without food and water, we don't live. You know what I mean? I mean, we really have to reel it back a little bit and get back to, whoa, wait a minute. What were we actually... we were meant to eat certain things and a mix of certain things because if we, they work synergistically together, there's a reason for it. We have the ability to digest lots of different types of things. Like, we could take it way back, but it's crazy.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I know just from working with you a little bit as well, that you find mindset, behaviors, habits to be directly connected to nutrition. And personally, I found that actually very helpful. Could you elaborate just a little bit on what you see as like the connection between kind of the mind and habits and things like that and what we're eating?
Yeah. So I feel like that's also kind of a big question and could be answered in some different ways. So I'll try to work with it here. So, when I kind of talk about that, it's a matter of again, could be answered several different ways. We have tendencies based on our behavior or how we think we have to operate in our life. We skip breakfast. We are so busy that we don't have enough for lunch. And then we're so freaking hungry at dinner that all of a sudden we're, eating at dinner and then we're eating after dinner and then we're still eating again right before we go to bed. That's what I mean by that. We've kind of lost that connection. That's what I mean by mind body in a sense too, of listening to our bodies, that we need nourishment actually throughout the day and mostly during the day, not so much at night because of physiology, how our bodies actually operate. And so that's what I mean by that when I say that. The other thing too is the whole concept of, again, going against our body because we're following something that was set up outside of ourselves, AKA some type of, diet or weird thing, right? Only eat mushrooms for 3 days in a row and then add a banana and then, oh my gosh, your life will change. Yes, it will. It will.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean? So,
so we're not going to see the Nicole mushroom diet.
Oh my gosh. Never.
No, I think that's really helpful. And it's something that, just speaking from my own experience working with you, that it was something that I've never thought about before until we started talking through my schedule and I started paying attention more to this stuff. And it was like, holy cow, like I understand exactly what Nicole was trying to explain to me. And, it really makes so much more sense than, it's more than just a meal plan.
It is. And I think that if I can just say one more thing around that, we so often treat our bodies like an object to control. versus something that we need to work with and we need to nourish during the day on lots of levels, not just food and hydration, but also like, when do I need a mental break during the day, right? When do I even operate best during my day? It's really getting in touch with all of those things, because when we're so out of touch, that determines everything. It determines how your whole day goes. And I'm flailing my hands right now because it can just get chaotic then. Yeah. And then we're really unhappy at the end of the day. So it really is, it's getting really, really into what does my body need again, intrinsically? What do I feel like I need? Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's perfect. And I've just really enjoyed kind of that approach. It's been very enlightening for me. And thanks for kind of sharing a little bit of that for everyone that's listening.
Yeah.
So I want to kind of switch gears here and start going a little bit towards athletes. Largely the population that, we work with is younger athletes, professional athletes, high school athletes, some active adults as well. But I just know from working with the younger kids that there's a lot of confusion and just issues that we see all the time with food and nutrition and timing. So in your experience working with kind of high school or college age athletes, what are some common areas that you see athletes struggle with consistently?
Hands down, skipping meals and hydration. So it's definitely timing and hydration, usually not getting enough in the right areas. And also this whole concept, this whole thought process of, I can't eat before I work out because I won't feel good. And it's like, no. The issue, yeah. The issue that we actually find is that we're not eating enough during the day, even leading up to the workout. So then when you do finally eat, your body will react a little differently, or we're not hydrating enough, prior to that workout. So then when you do eat, that can also affect you in a different way too. So timing is so crucial. So crucial.
That's perfect. That's one of the areas that I wanted to go into. So let's talk about timing a little bit. For somebody, because we get that question a lot, like, what should I eat before a workout in a game? So what do you see as like that time of day that athletes should eat and things like that?
So the thing is that our pre-game event or workout nutrition starts the minute we wake up. and really, you're constantly recovering. That's the whole concept too. And so that's why staying on task with these things is so important. No matter what your goal is, goals can have an effect on these things too, which we can get to. So no matter when that event is, so if your event or training is in the morning, or your event or training is in the afternoon, it's really kind of eating the same way you would any regular day. So if there's a game in the evening, you've got to still start off with a solid breakfast. Again, for an athlete in particular, depending on what their goals are, if they're if they need to put weight on, keep weight on, then they really need to be eating. Sometimes for some of my high school athletes, because they need so many calories in a day, I'm having them eat every 2 hours. But a lot of times it's every 2 to 3. For an athlete in particular, it's not going any longer than 4. And typically, based on someone's training schedule, 4 hours is too long. So it's really, really important to kind of work with that 2 to 3 hour increment, depending on what your sport is. And I want to also make a disclaimer here that everybody is so incredibly individualized. And that's what's really important too. We can't make generalizations about nutrition because nutrition isn't a generalized thing. Right. And so I really want people to hear and understand that, just because that can also get people into trouble too. Yeah. So everybody has very, very different needs based on their sport, based on their body comp, based on any goals they may have, based on their growth. I mean, especially the young athlete, it really is a different ball game for sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think if we could, pause the podcast and do a quick poll, I don't think we'd have very many high school kids saying that they were eating somewhere between every 2 and 4 hours.
That's right.
A lot more every 8 to 12 hours, the skip meal.
And that's precisely right. And then you have to question what the quality is during that time too. So if we are educating our young athletes here, quality is everything, because your cells have to be fed. If your cells are not fed, your body can't function. it's getting the quote unquote energy, but it's not getting what it needs to perform and repair and also sleep and think. So.
No, absolutely. So staying on the theme of the young athletes, I don't know that I've really met a high school kid in a while that doesn't tell me they have a hard time with breakfast. And I don't know if this is something that's different up here, but I grew up in Texas, and we seem to start high school later down there. I don't know if it was when I went to high school or it's a different in cultures or timing here, but we talked to a lot of high school kids that are like getting up at 5:30 to get to school for their first class by 7:20 or whatever the case is, which seems insane to me, but different point. But they end up, what gets cut a lot of times is breakfast. Either they don't eat it at all, or they grab something on the go. Why is breakfast important? And do you have any kind of advice for breakfast tips for someone that's in that situation?
Well, in particular, because if you're an athlete, the thing about a young athlete is not only are we still growing and we're still developing, which requires a tremendous amount of energy, but now we're putting additional stress on the body by having, a grueling training schedule in addition to an event schedule. There's a lot of demands on high school. I feel high schoolers now more than ever, and not even to go into that, like back in my day, but I do think about that often. It's just very different.
Yeah.
And so why is that meal? Because it sets the tone for your entire day. It's good to not eat after dinner in general, typically. Again, I don't want to get too much into that. But when you're an athlete, you have got to start eating, kind of immediately. And so starting off with, good protein, enough carbohydrate. So even if things are packed the night before, because usually it comes down to, the kids I'm working with are sleeping right up to the last minute. Yeah. And so it's more of just a preparation thing isn't happening versus, they're not getting it because they're not hungry per se. So either, putting a bunch of smoothie stuff in a blender and putting it in the refrigerator and just blending it in the morning and going, or packing that PBJ and fruit, or, whatever that might be. I mean, it could be a lot of different things, but a lot of times it really just comes down to planning and having things ready and available.
Yeah. I think that makes sense. I can see how that could really be important for somebody that doesn't have a ton of time. If they can do things the night before, that'd be helpful. They can eat it in the car in their first period of class or whatever.
Absolutely. Because otherwise we're starting off already in a deficit, and that's putting more strain on the body that eventually will lead to injury of some sort or just feeling bad.
I agree. I mean, that's why we don't give any specific advice, but we do always try to talk to people that are in our office with injuries about what are some of their nutritional habits, because I just don't think you can separate the two. I think
you can't,
especially in younger kids.
You can't. Yeah.
So we kind of talked a little bit about the timing, every 2 to 4 hours, depending on the person. But we hear a lot of people that, and you kind of alluded to this, they say like, oh, I can't eat before a game or workout because it makes me sick, or et cetera. So kind of what are some good guidance or general guidance on like what should a snack or meal before a workout or after a workout look like for athletes?
Sure. So if we're assuming, let's assume that we have taken in breakfast, we have taken in lunch, we hopefully have taken in a mid-morning snack, and then we're going to have practice at say 3:30. So, if you're kind of a nervous trainer, where I get a lot of that, where kids are just like my nerves or what have you, sure, that's completely understandable. How can we get nutrition through fluid then? And that would be kind of my main go-to with that, because of the fact that we need calories, we need the carbohydrate, we need enough coming in, but we also need the hydration piece, which is another area that can lack for a lot of high schoolers in general, a lot of younger athletes, period.
Some of our pros as well, to be fair.
Well, sure, of course. Yeah. So, but younger athletes don't have that thirst mechanism fully developed. And that's another, reason why too, they could be severely dehydrated and not even know it. So that's why we have to keep on task too with our hydration just in general. But when we're dehydrated, our gut doesn't work well at all. And so if we're dehydrated and we're trying to eat something, we're probably going to have a little backlash from that. So being hydrated is first and foremost, and you can't make up for hydration right before practice.
Yeah.
You got to start that right away in the morning and just be consistent with taking in, 8 to 12 ounces every hour and a half, 2 hours kind of a deal, really is what you're looking for.
Okay.
Other foods that are broken down, the other part that is also essential too is the timing of it. So depending on when their lunch period is too, can determine the what prior to the training. But if you eat something an hour before training, that is not going to affect you at all. That is not literally going to affect you at all. And so Cliff Bars would be the easiest. They're designed to be consumed while you're moving. Even just some dry cereal is a good idea. So if it's going to be an hour, you can get away with a handful of nuts and a lot of dried fruit, even maybe make a gorp, right? So a little dried fruit, some nuts, some cereal, some pretzels, excellent combination to kind of do. And again, that stuff is just easy. It digests well. It's going to be a non-issue.
Yeah.
I think one of my favorite go-tos is pretzel, banana, and string cheese prior to a workout, because you're getting two different types of carbohydrate that you need. You're getting just enough protein to help provide some amino acid going in and conserve your muscle mass. Also slows the release of that carbohydrate into the bloodstream, but you're also getting the potassium, which you need for that muscle health. And you're getting that sodium, which you so desperately need to, especially if it's in hot weather, you're a heavy sweater. So that combination alone is just fabulous. And again, easy peasy on that gut.
Yeah, no, I have a hard time believing that would, yes, you eat a giant burrito bowl or something right before practice. I can buy that upsetting your stomach, but having some pretzels, bananas, and string cheese, that seems like that everyone should be able to manage that.
Yeah, you have the burrito bowl after. That's your post-recovery. That's perfect for your post-recovery. Yeah.
No, and that's perfect, because that's kind of my next question. So when someone finishes game, practice, etc., what do you look for in that post-recovery meal?
Yeah. So again, carbohydrate is our best friend for so many reasons. It decreases the stress response that is elicited by, activity like that. It also, again, provides us with those B vitamins, which is so essential for the formation of serotonin. It is also essential for our recovery. It will and does aid in recovery. Protein cannot do it. What happens is when we consume too much protein, that's converted to carbohydrate, because that's what your body needs to actually heal your muscle. You don't need a ton of amino acid post exercise. You need that away from your exercise. So that's also the misunderstood piece as well. So it really is getting in enough carbohydrate and getting in just a little bit of protein for that initial recovery, So recovery drink of maybe 10 to 20 grams of protein max. It has been proven time and time again that there's no additional benefit to more than 20 grams of protein post exercise. The remaining of that really needs to be carbohydrate, and how much carbohydrate you need is completely dependent on your own muscle mass. That really is a precision thing. Essentially, you want to look for a 3-to-1 ratio in general. If we're going to generalize anything, that's essentially what I throw out there.
Okay. No, that's helpful, and I think that's definitely probably surprising to most people, because everyone we hear is like protein after protein after, and I don't think enough people talk about the carbs.
It's so misunderstood, and if anything, that will create more stress on the body and will actually create more inflammation, to be honest, because the protein doesn't decrease the cortisol, only the carbohydrate does. So if that's the case, then what happens is your muscles stay more damaged longer, and it takes forever for your body to break down that protein into usable carbohydrate. So we're already losing time then with recovery.
Interesting.
And that's just really important to understand.
Yeah, no, I think that's definitely one of those myths that's floating around
Ugh,
out there that won't go away.
like forever. I know. I'm like, seriously, have we not?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's switch gears and talk a little bit about weight gain. 'Cause
Okay.
it's something that we see. Again, one of our clinics is in a baseball gym. I know you have a
Yeah,
background working with baseball players, and
absolutely.
as much or more so than any other sport that we worked with in baseball and young kids, it's all, everyone still talks about mass equals gas in terms of throwing
Yeah.
velocity. Everyone wants to put on weight. And a lot of the athletes really struggle with it. They feel like they're doing the right stuff. They're really trying, and they're just not seeing results. So what are things that you've seen in the past with athletes that are struggling to gain weight, and mistakes that they're making?
So there's a few things. Timing is number one. So when I'm working with someone that needs to put mass on, we are eating every 2 hours. There is no qualms about that. And if we're trying to work around school schedules, we'll work around that. But we're usually providing very high calorie, very just high nutrient packed, mini meals, if you will, if they have to be spread out a little bit longer. So the consistency of that intake is usually where most people go wrong. The other thing is, I have seen that some athletes can do fine when they have that structure during the week, and then the weekend they're skipping meals right and left. So then their average intake over a course of a 7-day is way lower than it needs to be, and there's no way they're going to put mass on then. So I can't stress enough how you have to be literally consistent every single day, including weekends, no matter what. And people, especially if they're not working with a professional that can help them with this, don't understand how much they're truly expending in their training. So usually so much of it is they're not taking in enough nutrition, period. Everyone's just walking around, just, not getting enough is essentially what it is. And in order to actually put mass on, not only do you need that base level just to maintain, including your, activity levels, but you usually need an additional 500 calories more. And on some of these kids that I've worked with, I'm talking about 4,000 to 6,000 calories a day I'm usually working with. And that's a commitment.
Yeah.
That's a true commitment. But it's important that they understand that is truly what it requires.
Yeah. No, I know it takes work. I mean, we, from every athlete that we've talked to, especially we've worked with a few guys that have done this successfully and are playing in professional baseball now. And, anytime that they're trying to add more weight, it's like, they'll come in and just like, man, I forgot how hard this was. Like back when I was a young kid, how much work it took. And that's what we try to kind of talk to people about is like, it's one thing to say that you're going to do this, but like, do you really know what it takes? And people,
it's a job.
Yeah. They almost like, well, I just need to work harder in the gym, which then gives them the bigger caloric deficit, which is going in the wrong direction. So
yeah, you got it. You're absolutely right.
Any kind of the timing's really important, I know, but I know you've seen athletes that maybe haven't put on like good weight and have developed some really bad habits through trying to go through this process. Any just kind of overall tips on like healthy ways to like what it should look like if you're doing this in like a long-term healthy way versus just trying to pour everything into your body as possible?
Oh gosh. Well, I mean, that's a tough one. I mean, I think, what's important is, and we talked about this slightly earlier, is the quality of what you're taking in, or how much fast food are you taking in the course of a day? How much, packaged things that might not have as much actual nutrition. And again, I'm not picking on that stuff at all, because there's a time and a place for all of that. And we still have to go, really, what is the quality of what it is that I'm taking in? I might be taking in 4,000 calories, but am I actually getting anything from that? And that's usually where inflammation stays high. And that's where the weight that you're not looking for gets put on. because sure, we've got the energy coming in, but we don't have the nutrition coming in. And that's what's different. So it's okay if we're going to do a fast food meal. It's not a big deal. But is that 3 meals a day? Is that 1 meal a day? Is it 1 meal a week? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just important to kind of find the balance around the quality. How much quality do you have? The other piece is timing. And then the other piece is what makes up the composition of your meals. So making sure that you're having, protein at every main meal and, a nutrient dense carbohydrate at every main meal, mostly for an athlete, 2 to 3 servings, to be honest, at a main meal. Most people don't understand what that looks like though. So for me to even say that is probably just a wash over the head. But, when you think about an athlete's plate, if I can provide a visual, really you want a quarter of that to be protein. You want a quarter of that to be vegetables, and you want half of that to be carbohydrate of some sort. Sometimes if it's prior to an event, then a few days leading up to that, you want 3/4 of that plate to be a form of a carbohydrate, whether it be, a grain, whether it be a starchy vegetable, whatever that might be, whether it be fruit. You need a little bit more of that with that little bit of protein. But if you can kind of vision that that's what your main plates look like, and you're doing that at least 3 times a day and maybe getting in, some form of a combination of that during, other snacks during the day, you're definitely going to be on a way better path.
Yeah, I think that's really, really good advice, and in a simple, not simple, but a place for people to start with that. Okay. Since I'm a physical therapist, I can't let you go without at least talking about injured athletes a little bit.
Yeah.
This is something that kind of first sparked my interest a little bit is we'd always have athletes come in that were like rehabbing from, say, an ACL injury, which is, an injury that predominantly, more so than anything else, affects young females. And they're like, well, now I'm out of competition and I'm not practicing. So we start, like, energies would be really low during workouts or rehab sessions. And we start talking to them about what was going on. And it's like, well, it turns out they're not eating as much. And their rationale was like, I'm not in games and practice, so I don't need to. I wanted to get your take on if you have advice for athletes that are out with injuries. Why is nutrition so important?
Oh my gosh.
What changes should they or shouldn't make to their normal routine?
Okay. This is where quality is kind of everything at this point. Timing is everything. So the biggest thing is what you just said. People cut back during a time where they have to actually maintain, because your body requires so much additional energy to properly heal. And not just energy, but quality nutrition, right? Number one, protein. So if you weren't doing it before, this is essential to do it now, where again, this will be determined by that person's body composition and, male, female, height, all that kind of stuff, to know precisely how much protein you need per meal, if you will. But you still want to be giving yourself amino acid basically every 3 hours in some way, shape, or form. And depending on how many times a day you're going to eat and what you actually need, this is where I can't get specific with numbers, but it's going to look like, 10 to 25 grams of protein per pop, The second thing is, where are your antioxidants coming from? Where are your vitamins and minerals that actually cut inflammation and that help facilitate that healing? So that's going to be like all of your vegetables. If you don't like vegetables, we got to find a way to get those things in, even if you like one vegetable, eat a lot of it throughout the day, because it's giving you specific nutrients that are necessary for that healing. Vitamin C is super high. So not only are we going to get that from fruit, but we're going to get that from a broccoli. We're going to get that from our leafy greens. We're going to get that from, there's a lot of vitamin C, believe it or not, in a potato. There's a lot of vitamin C, believe it or not, in popcorn. We can get vitamin C from bell peppers. There's lots of different ways we can get that in. It's getting that type of thing in. And like I said, other anti-inflammatory things, in particular, getting in some really good for you dairy, like, no fluff dairy, right? Just good for you dairy, a cottage cheese, like a plain yogurt. good stuff like that, whether you put that in a smoothie, which I feel like smoothie during times of healing is one of the easiest, most impactful ways we can take in nutrition, because we get to throw in the stuff we don't like to actually eat, and we don't really taste it in a smoothie, depending on what else you're putting with it. So you can get away with putting in that spinach that you may not like. You can get away with, you can add pumpkin. Who would ever eat pumpkin anyway, unless it's in a pie form, right? But pumpkin is so ridiculously phenomenal and high in vitamin A and vitamin C as well, and giving you a ton of potassium and magnesium, all these wonderful, wonderful healing things that you throw it in. You can throw in all the garbage basically into that smoothie, and then maybe you have a couple smoothies in the course of a day. You can use them, the plain yogurt that's gross on its own, and you don't taste it. You see what I'm saying? But you're getting all of this massive nutrition in one pot. So big fan of incorporating those types of things. So again, honing in on real specific nutrition when you're healing is going to be everything. And I will guarantee we'll heal faster and stronger from it.
Yeah. No, I think it's so important, and we kind of in a very much more simplistic way than since it's not our expertise. We're just like, look, we can't have you cutting back on your nutrition because yes, you're not in practice, but you're working really hard in your rehab, and your body's trying to heal itself, and like you can't just take that energy away from it. You're not going to recover it. And
that's right.
It's just one of those myths that drives me nuts. But again, it just won't seem to go away of you should eat less because you're not playing.
Right. And the only thing that you're eating less of is you're not having a pre and post workout.
Right.
That's all you take out.
Exactly.
The rest of your day should seriously be the same.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, that was excellent. I think people are going to have to listen to this multiple times to get all the little good nuggets of information out of it, and have a pen and paper handy. We always finish. We always finish with a couple of fun little questions just to help people get to know you a little bit better. So, what is your favorite kitchen appliance?
Oh gosh, right now it's my air fryer. Okay. It's a savior. It makes everything really good, and everything cooks so fast. And I love when things are crispy. So yeah, it's my air fryer.
I don't have one, but after talking to you about this the last couple of times, I think I'm going to have to go ahead and get one because I've got air fryer envy.
Oh my gosh. Well, they're phenomenal. It's amazing what you can do in one. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So then I know you're a local, kind of Milwaukee person. You're practicing the Tosa area. Do you have a favorite restaurant in the Milwaukee area that you like to go to?
I think my most favorite restaurant is Cafe Mana, which is in Brookfield. That would probably be my most favorite restaurant.
Okay. Mm-hmm. That one's been on our list. It was actually like on our pre-COVID list, and then now we haven't gone out to eat in forever, but maybe they do. Yeah. They'll try it.
Absolutely.
Okay. And then we always joke that like nutritionists are real people too. They're not like always the most perfect ever. So you have a favorite kind of cheat meal or cheat snack that you like to have?
So I think I just have to say it because it's an opportunity that I don't believe in cheat anything because food is food.
Right.
And I incorporate the things that I love in my diet every day. So there isn't anything that I don't put food on a pedestal. So if I want something, I have it. So like I usually eat chocolate every day because chocolate's kind of my most favorite thing ever.
Yeah. This is why you and Lauren get along really well.
Yeah.
No, I think that's great advice and a really nice way to phrase that, and change people's mindsets about that as well.
Definitely. Thank you.
All right. Well, I really appreciate the time today. This was so informative, and I think any athlete that listens to this is going to get a lot of information. But I think that from my own perspective, something that people should take away from this is that nutrition is, in some ways, it can be simple, but it's much more complicated than that. And I would really encourage people to reach out to a professional if this is something that you are struggling with. Again, Lauren and I are both relatively knowledgeable people about the body. We have backgrounds in this, and I've learned a ton from working with Nicole or someone else like Nicole, because it is an area that can make a huge difference. And there's a lot more to it than you can possibly read in one blog on the internet. So,
oh my gosh, yes.
So in that vein, where can people that are listening to this learn more about you and what you're doing?
Sure. They can visit my website, wayoflifenutrition.com. They can also listen to the podcast and go to the website for the podcast, which is betweentwopastries.com. And if you go to my shop too, on my website, I offer a lot of different educational PowerPoints and things like that too, if you're just kind of wanting to sleuth around on your own. So that at least, you'll be getting, good information.
Yes.
Nothing hokey.
That's so important these days.
Yeah.
So that's perfect. I will get those in the show notes, so people can look those up and find you online and reach out that way. So again, thank you so much for your time. I really do think we'll have to do this again soon. We could talk about a host of other things. Athletes with disordered eating, endurance athletes, weight loss, etc. The list could go on and on. So
love it.
We'll do this again and dive into some other things and see if we can dispel some more myths.
Awesome.
All right.
Thank you so much, Michael. This is great.
Yes, thank you. And thanks to everyone for listening. And we'll see you guys on the next episode. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Milwaukee Sports Performance Podcast. We hope you enjoyed this episode and learned something new that will help you achieve your goals. If you did, we would love for you to head over to Instagram and search MKE Sports Podcast. Like, follow, or comment on today's episode. If you have questions, comments, topics, or guest suggestions, reach out through that Instagram account. Your feedback will help us make this podcast as relevant and informative as possible. If you have additional time, we'd appreciate your help in spreading this information. If you could head over to iTunes and leave us a rating and review, it will help us spread the word to more athletes in the greater Milwaukee area. Have a great day, and we will see you next time.